Deep within the shadows of a cold, stone corridor, a dark organization begins to stir. In a place where hope goes to die, a solitary figure walks toward a destiny paved in blood. Meet Ju, a man whose life has been forged in the darkness of a prison cell. He is a professional assassin, mired in the weariness of his trade. Behind the bars, an elderly man named Kuro approaches him, a handler with a job that will change everything. The target is no ordinary man. He is a legend, a symbol of hope. But the mission is clear and absolute. Kill the hero. 3 days. That's all the time Ju has before the hero hosts a grand party. From his vantage point, Ju stares at the distant palace, his sharp, cold eyes already calculating the path to his target's heart. In a dimly lit room, Kuro lays out the plan. This isn't just another hit. It's a meticulously crafted assassination that requires perfect timing and zero room for error. Disguised as a servant, Kuro will infiltrate first. He'll give the signal when the moment is right. Ju studies the target's face on the documents, a young man with an innocent smile that hides a monster. The world knows him as Will, the hero, a legend given human form, loved by the gods and the people alike. His talents are whispered to be unmatched by any mortal. They say he cut down 3 of the 4 demon kings and crushed an army of 10,000 beneath his banner. To humanity, he is the ultimate beacon of hope. But beneath that shining armor lies a darkness few have seen, and there are those who want him dead. Ju watches as the hero stands with his companions, his gaze devoid of any admiration. Kuro leaves the choice of method to Ju, but his voice is heavy with a personal, festering hatred. This isn't just business for the old man. Kuro slams his hand onto the hero's file. The intensity in his eyes is chilling. For him, Will is no savior. He is a curse that must be broken. Kuro's composure fractures as he demands that the hero dies before his very eyes. The professional handler is replaced by a man consumed by vengeance. The truth is far grimmer than the legends. Kuro reveals that the hero disgraced his beloved granddaughter, driving the poor girl to suicide. The beacon of hope is a predator who hides behind his title. Kuro's eyes fill with tears as he admits that a cold tool like Ju could never understand these feelings. He stands over the table, his grief and rage pouring out in the silent room. But Kuro quickly masks his pain with a twisted, determined smile. He knows exactly why he hired Ju. His tools don't need emotions. They don't question orders or resist. They only exist to end the target's breath with absolute precision. To Kuro, Ju is the perfect weapon for this final act of revenge. While others broke down under the weight of their sins, Ju remains the one fine tool left. This is his last job, the final strike that will end a legacy of lies. Ju's face is a mask of cold professionalism. He accepts the order with a simple, deadly focus: kill the hero. No hesitation, no doubt. The night of the party arrives. Will stands at the center of attention, flashing that charming, fake smile that has fooled the entire world. Around him, his female companions bask in the adoration of the crowd. The ballroom is a lavish gathering of high-ranking nobles, all eager to be in the presence of the legendary hero. Will plays the part perfectly, raising his glass as the perfect idol of the people. Women flock to him, begging for a dance. Will acts the part of the humble, slightly shy hero, claiming he's not much of a dancer to win even more hearts. It's a masterful performance, a dazzling record, a handsome face. On the surface, he seems flawless, but in the shadows of the ballroom, a different kind of monster is hunting him. Ju watches from the dark corners. To him, it doesn't matter what kind of man Will is or how many people love him. The order is to kill, and he will see it through. Will separates himself from the festivities, moving toward the upper halls. Kuro, blending in perfectly as a butler, catches Ju's eye with a sharp, final nod. The plan is now in motion. A chilling tension settles over the palace as Ju takes his position. The hero's golden luck is about to run out, and in just a heartbeat, this entire celebration will be plunged into a nightmare. Suddenly, the lights cut out, plunging the lavish hall into total darkness. Panic spreads instantly among the high-ranking guests. Screams of Kaya echo through the shadows as people stumble blindly, desperately calling for someone to bring light back to the room. Amidst the confusion, a shadow moves. Ju, the professional assassin, uses the chaos as cover, slipping outside the windows and moving with lethal grace. Below him, the palace staff is in an uproar, completely unaware that a hunter is now prowling their corridors. Kuro, still perfectly disguised as an elderly butler, steps in to manage the frantic staff. He maintains a calm, stern facade, ordering everyone to stay put while the situation is handled. But internally, his focus is elsewhere. He stares toward the upper floors, his mind fixated on the mission. Don't screw this up, Kuro thinks as he watches the silhouette of his tool vanish into the darkness of the palace hallways. Upstairs, Ju moves silently past the panicking staff, a ghost in the machine of this grand manor, closing in on his target. According to the map, the hero's private quarters should be right here. Ju pauses at a set of ornate doors, sensing something off. He crouches low, listening to the muffled sounds coming from within. Whatever is happening behind these doors, it certainly isn't a celebration. Outside, the staff continues to apologize to the restless nobles. They promise that the cause of the blackout is being investigated and beg for just a little more patience. Little do they know, the investigation is much more violent than they could ever imagine. Inside the private room, the mask has finally slipped. Will, the world's hero, sits comfortably while one of his companions rants about how useless commoners are. The atmosphere is thick with arrogance and a casual disregard for human life. To them, the blackout is just a minor inconvenience to their entertainment. The women in Will's party are just as depraved as he is. They complain about the darkness ruining their gowns and wasting their night, their beautiful faces twisted with boredom and annoyance. It's clear that their public image as noble warriors is nothing more than a carefully constructed lie. Will flashes a chillingly innocent smile, dismissing the mishap with a shrug. He's hungry and impatient, while his companions snap at the servants. The contrast between the celebrated savior and this spoiled, petulant monster is staggering. This is the true face of the world's hope. Hero, can't you light the room with magic? One of them asks. Will agrees, but he has a much darker kind of play in mind to pass the time while they wait. He stands up, his eyes gleaming with a sadistic thrill that makes even the palace staff tremble in fear. Will draws his blade, the light of his magic reflecting off the steel. With a terrifyingly cheerful voice, he suggests a new game, chopping off the limbs of the butler to make dolls out of them. The sheer, casual cruelty of the suggestion leaves the room in a stunned, horrified silence. The staff member pales, his eyes wide with terror, as Will closes in. He begs for them to stop, reminding them that treating people as toys is forbidden. But Will and his group just laugh. In their minds, they're above the law, and if they melt the bodies down without a trace, who will ever know? Ju watches this from the shadows, his expression hardening. As Ju observes the scene, Kuro's voice echoes in his mind. That bastard who defiled my granddaughter deserves no mercy. Seeing the hero's true nature for himself, Ju no longer has any doubts. This man isn't just a target. He's a plague that needs to be purged. Will looms over the terrified man, promising that the drugs will make the pain disappear once he's processed. He's completely caught up in his sick game until he senses a new presence. He spins around, eyes wide, shouting, "Who's there?" and seeing a figure emerging from the dark. Ju steps fully into the light, his hand resting on the hilt of his blade. His voice is calm, devoid of any fear or hesitation. "My name is Ju. I've been hired to assassinate you, hero." The declaration is flat and professional, like a judge delivering a final sentence. For a moment, Will is stunned. Then he bursts into a mocking laugh. He looks Ju up and down, unable to believe that this old man thinks he can actually take down a hero. He's amused, his arrogance shielding him from the reality of the threat standing before him. Will laughs at the master plan of cutting the lights, calling it simple and pathetic. He tells his companions to forget the butler for now. To Will, Ju is just a new toy, a more interesting one that might actually put up a fight before he's broken. Ju remains unfazed by the insults. He stares back at the hero with cold, analytical eyes. Playing with this one sounds a whole lot more fun, he mutters. The professional assassin is gone, replaced by the predator who has spent his entire life killing monsters far worse than this boy. Will's companions start to argue, all of them wanting a piece of the newcomer. They're like a pack of rabid animals, their bloodlust completely overriding any sense of nobility. But Will holds up a hand, telling them not to interfere. He wants this kill all for himself. The terrified butler can only watch, realizing that everyone in this room is completely insane. Will waves his fingers in a mocking peace sign, his face twisted into a grotesque, joyful grin. He's crossed blades with countless monsters, and to him, this is just another day at the office. He wonders if he's the one who's mad, or if the world that created heroes, like him, is the real problem. Ju realizes that the assassination he planned is rapidly turning into a direct duel. He calls Will a geezer in a rare moment of dry humor, but internally his mind is racing. This isn't how he usually operates, but then again, nothing about this job has been normal. Normally, Ju would never reveal himself to a target. He's a creature of the dark, a shadow that strikes and vanishes. But tonight, something is different. He grips his blade tighter, his internal monologue revealing a hidden desire. Even if Assassin Ju dies tonight, he wants to test his kills against a hero and see just how far they can take him. Will lets out a short, sharp laugh, his eyes narrowing as he prepares to strike. Ju draws his own short sword, the steel singing as it leaves the scabbard. The air in the room becomes heavy with killing intent, a silent promise that only one of them will leave this room alive. Then entertain me, Will screams, lunging forward with a speed that would catch anyone else off guard. Ju barely has time to brace himself as the hero pours his entire being into this first violent strike. The professional mask is gone. Now, only the instinct to kill remains. Steel grinds against steel, the pressure from Will's blade threatening to shatter Ju's defense. The raw physical power is terrifying. Ju realizes that a direct, head-on hit would be fatal. He needs to stop feeling the weight of the hero's strength and start seeing the flaws in his form. The fight intensifies as Will launches a barrage of attacks. Ju dodges effortlessly, his eyes never leaving his opponent. He analyzes the hero's combat style with a professional coldness. Each strike from Will is undeniably strong, but to an assassin like Ju, the movements are amateurish, strong but simple, predictable to a man who has lived his life in the shadows. Frustrated by Ju's evasiveness, Will decides to end it quickly. He prepares a devastating magical skill, his blade glowing with an ominous light. You're pretty good at dodging, huh? Then try this. Flash Dragon Fong, he screams, unleashing a surge of power that fills the room. Will smirks, convinced he's landed the finishing blow. He mocks Ju, certain that his legendary skill was more than enough to overwhelm a mere assassin. Bet that shocked you, he shouts, his arrogance blinding him to the fact that his opponent is far from defeated. To Will, his blade of light is an unstoppable force that no one can withstand. But the smug look on Will's face vanishes instantly as a sharp pain blooms in his gut. Ju has moved faster than the eye can follow, burying a dagger deep into the hero's side. Huh, Will gasps, his world spinning. Ju's voice is a cold whisper in the silence, a technique strong enough to slay the demon kings. But tonight, luck's against you. Ju stares down at the wounded hero, his gaze completely devoid of empathy. He's seen legends fall before, and tonight, Will is just another name on a list. Especially against someone like me, he says, the finality of the statement weighing heavier than any physical blow. The hero's female companions are frozen in disbelief. They didn't sense any magic, no surge of mana that should have accompanied such a strike. To them, it's impossible for a mere assassin to overcome a hero's defenses without magic. Will is still in shock, clutching his side as the reality of his situation begins to sink in. What? He stammers, his perfect world crumbling. Will tries to use his legendary healing magic to close the wound, dismissive of what he calls petty magic. But instead of healing, black blood erupts from his mouth. His eyes bulge in agony as he realizes something is horribly wrong. The petty wound he scoffed at is doing something much worse than just bleeding. Ju stands over the dying hero, revealing the truth behind his attack. The knife he used was coated in a specialized poison that only reacts to magic. The more mana Will uses to try and heal himself, the faster the poison destroys him from the inside. You've got minutes left at most, Ju says, watching the legendary hero convulse on the floor. Realizing their leader is falling, the rest of Will's party finally snaps into action. But they are terrified, their public bravado replaced by sheer panic. She doesn't give them a chance to regroup. He moves like a shadow, already planning his next 3 strikes before they've even drawn their weapons. The mage companion screams for everyone to get into formation, desperately trying to cast a powerful fire spell. Vulcan! She starts, but Ju is already upon her. With a single, fluid motion, he silences her forever, his blade cutting through her before the spell can even manifest. The terror in her eyes is the last thing she ever feels. There is no mercy tonight. Ju systematically eliminates the rest of the party. One of the women lets out a final, choked scream as she's cut down, her tears of terror mixing with the blood on the ballroom floor. To Ju, they aren't companions or heroes. They're just obstacles to be cleared. The muscular warrior of the group lunges at Ju with a desperate, guttural roar. She's stronger than the others, but she's fighting with pure emotion, making her easy prey for a professional. Ju sidesteps her clumsy attack and finishes the job with the same clinical efficiency he's shown all night. In seconds, the legendary hero's party has been wiped out. Ju stands among the bodies, his expression unchanged. The third companion dies with a look of utter shock, unable to comprehend how their glorious story ended in such a dark, lonely room. The hero is now truly alone. Will is a pathetic sight, crawling on the floor and sobbing for mercy. The great savior of humanity is reduced to a sniveling coward, begging for his life. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I don't want to die, he wails, but Ju only watches him with a look of deep, silent disgust. This is the man the world worshipped. Ju turns away from the dying boy, his job effectively done. He sheathes his sword with a click that echoes through the room. It's over, then, he says, the simple statement signaling the end of an era. The legend of the hero has come to a bloody, unceremonious conclusion. Kuro, the elderly handler, steps forward from the shadows. His face is a mask of stern, cold satisfaction. He's waited a long time for this moment, and seeing the hero broken on the floor is the only payment he truly cared about. Kuro, Ju says, acknowledging his presence. Ju gestures to the palace butler, who is shaking on the floor, and asks if he should be eliminated too. But Kuro shakes his head. He knows this man, a professional who knows the value of silence. No, he won't talk, Kuro says, his voice low and dangerous. The butler can only stare in horror at the scene before him. The hero lies spread-eagled on the carpet, a pool of blood forming beneath him. The poison has done its work, turning his own mana into a lethal rot. It's a lonely, undignified death for a man who lived his life in the spotlight, surrounded by adoring crowds. Beside him, the world he knew has vanished. In his final moments, Will manages to choke out the word coward. Ju only scoffs. To an assassin, words like cowardice and honor are meaningless in a fight to the death. I only fought my fight, he replies, dismissive of the dying boy's attempt at an insult. There is no glory here, only the cold reality of the kill. Kuro kneels beside the dying hero, his eyes burning with a dark, intense fury. He wants to make sure Will knows exactly why this is happening. He asks if it was Will who ordered the disgrace that led to his granddaughter's death. The mask of the polite butler is gone, replaced by the face of a grieving grandfather. Kuro leans in close, his voice a chilling rasp in Will's ear. He tells the hero, that the most dangerous creatures in this world aren't the monsters he fought, but the humans he stepped on. The irony isn't lost on Kuro. The world savior is dying at the hands of the very people he thought were beneath him. Ju stands over them both, his expression neutral. He tells Will to try not to make so many enemies in his next life. A bit of dark advice for a man with no future left. Will dies with the pathetic delusion that he is still a legend. But to the men in this room, he is nothing more than a stain on the floor. Ju delivers the final strike, ending it all. The silence that follows is heavy. The hero is dead, his face frozen in a grotesque mask of agony and black bile. There are no trumpets, no songs of praise, just the cold air of a room filled with the dead. The legend is over, and the truth is buried in blood. Kuro remains on his knees, the crushing weight of revenge finally lifting from his shoulders. Tears stream down his face as he realizes his granddaughter can finally rest in peace. The blood debt is paid in full. He calls out to Ju, his voice trembling with a mix of relief and exhaustion, a final acknowledgement of the man who ended his nightmare. Ju is already at the window, ready to vanish into the snowy night. Kuro starts to offer his thanks, but Ju cuts him off with a blunt forget it. He doesn't want gratitude. He just wants the silence of the winter landscape. As he steps out, leaving the blood-stained palace behind, a faint, rare sense of peace touches his heart. The assassin's job is over, but for the man beneath the mask, a new, uncertain journey is just beginning. The snowy night eventually gives way to a cold, quiet morning. The palace, once filled with the sounds of a grand celebration, is now a silent tomb for a legend that wasn't what it seemed. The world outside remains oblivious to the shift that occurred within those stone walls. 13 days pass. The shock of the hero's death has begun to settle, and the wheels of a new fate are starting to turn. In the distance, the spires of the capital city still stand, but for one man, that life is already a fading memory. Ju walks toward a secluded cabin, following the final instructions from his old handler. After the cleanup, go underground and tie up loose ends. Once it's done, leave the country. The orders are clear, marking the end of his long service to the organization. He looks at a document in his hand, the last piece of his old life. The document is a forged identity, the ultimate gift from Kuro. Ju stares at the face in the picture, a man who looks like him but carries a different soul. Jade Clone, that's my new name. A false identity Kuro forged to let me vanish forever. The assassin is being given a second chance, a blank slate. With this new name, Ju can finally cross the border and leave the blood-soaked soil of this kingdom behind. The life of Assassin Ju is over. From now on, I'll live as an ordinary man, Jade. He steps forward, his old boots crunching on the dry earth, leaving the shadows of the dungeon far behind. But as he stands on the threshold of freedom, a heavy question weighs on his mind. Jade stares into the distance, his face etched with a profound weariness. But now, how do I live? For a man who has only ever known how to take life, the prospect of actually living one is terrifyingly foreign. Killing has been his only reality since before he can even remember. He looks back at the bodies he's left in his wake, wondering if someone like him can ever truly blend in with ordinary people. He realizes that he'd rather live without any purpose at all than continue to be the tool of someone else's vengeance. This transition is his final, most difficult mission. As he reaches into his bag for his supplies, his hand brushes against something unexpected. He pulls out a worn, tattered notebook. "What's this?" he mutters, his eyes narrowing as he looks at the fragile pages that seem so out of place among his gear. The notebook triggers a memory of a girl named Hachi, a bright-eyed child who was his only companion in the darkness of the dungeon. Meet Hachi. She was a ray of light in a place where hope was supposed to be impossible. In his mind, he hears her voice again, asking a simple, innocent question. "Ju, have you ever eaten cake?" It's a question that feels like a lifetime ago. Hachi's eyes would sparkle as she described a round, fluffy cake with edible flowers on top, something she had only ever heard about from others. She dreamed of such simple things, her innocence remaining untouched despite the cold bars surrounding them. To her, a cake wasn't just food, it was a piece of the world she longed to see. Ju recalls watching her deliver a cake to what she called her bucket list. She wasn't interested in eating it herself. She wanted to give it to someone else. Her selflessness was a puzzle to Ju back then, a soft concept in a world that had only ever been hard and cruel. But the memory turns bittersweet. Hachi's dreams were cut short by the very world Ju operated in. He remembers a person who never got to give a cake to their daughter because of his actions. The weight of his past as an assassin isn't just about the people he killed, but the light he unknowingly extinguished along the way. Hachi had eventually broken down, her optimistic facade crumbling as the reality of their prison took its toll. "I don't want to kill anymore. I just want a normal life," she had sobbed. She wanted to leave that place and experience the world as a free person. Her tears are a haunting reminder of a life she never got to live. Back in the present, Jade looks down at the notebook with a faint, sad smile. "Yeah, let's escape together, Hachi." He realizes that while he may not have a purpose of his own, he can carry hers. She wanted to see the world, and now he has the chance to do it for both of them. Jade closes the notebook and tucks it away safely. For the first time in years, the darkness in his eyes seems to lift just a little. "Guess it's not time to die yet," he says to the empty landscape. He has a new mission now, one that doesn't involve blood or contracts. He has a promise to keep. With a firm step, he turns his back on the life of an assassin and starts walking toward the horizon. His white cloak flutters in the wind, a symbol of the clean slate he's been given. The road ahead is long and uncertain, but for the first time, it's a road he's chosen for himself. Jade stands on the edge of a cliff, looking out at the vast world that Hachi could only dream of. "That list of yours, I can't do everything," he admits quietly, "but I'll carry it on for you." He's no longer just a survivor. He's a traveler carrying the dreams of a friend. As the sun rises over a breathtaking landscape of floating islands and lush forests, Jade makes a silent vow. "I'll see the world outside and bring it back as stories for you." The beauty of the morning is a stark contrast to the darkness he's lived in for so long. The world is huge, and it's finally his to explore. The assassin Ju, the man who killed the world's hero, is officially dead. What begins now is something much more extraordinary and difficult. Nothing more than an ordinary man's life. Carrying Hachi's notebook and a heart that's slowly beginning to feel again, Jade takes his first real step into a new world. This isn't the end of his story. It's the beginning of his life. The legendary hero is dead. The world's greatest symbol of hope has been extinguished in a single night. But what the world doesn't know is that the man who killed him is just getting started. Rumors spread like wildfire through the Elgrand Empire. Was it the Demon King's revenge, or the work of a hidden enemy? The people mourn in shock, unaware of the twisted nature of the hero they lost. The truth lies buried in that silent room. A lone assassin named Ju stood over the fallen hero, ending a legacy of cruelty that the public never saw. But for Ju, that life is now behind him. Ju stands before the massive gates of the kingdom of Insarl. In this new world, the man known as the Empire's greatest killer no longer exists. He's here to fulfill a promise, a bucket list left behind by someone precious. The border is crowded with people seeking a fresh start. Ju blends into the line, his heart heavy but his resolve firm. It's time to step out of the shadows and into the light. He looks down at the false identity papers provided by his former handler, Kuro. From this moment on, he will live under the name Jade Clone, a fake name for a man seeking a real life. Ju spent his entire life in the underworld, a man with no family registry and no place in the sun. In his world, money was the only thing heavier than life itself, and a new identity was just another transaction. When the guard questions his lack of belongings, Ju offers a simple lie. "My home burned down. This is all I have." He stands there, tense, waiting for the scrutiny to end. The guard checks the papers and gives a simple nod. "You can pass." Ju lets out a breath he didn't realize he was holding and starts to walk through the gate. Suddenly, the guard calls out, "Hold up, mister!" Ju freezes, his assassin instincts flaring. Is his cover already blown? He prepares for the worst. He slowly turns back, face masked tight, eyes searching for any sign of trouble. The atmosphere is thick with tension as he waits for the guard's next words. Welcome to the free kingdom of Insarl. Safe journey. The guard's friendly smile is almost too much for Ju to process. He manages a small nod, feeling a strange mix of relief and confusion. Insarl truly is the land of freedom. Ju watches as people of all races and trades move about without fear. It's a world away from the cold, clinical empire he left behind. But living here requires more than just freedom. It requires money. Ju looks at the peaceful faces around him and wonders how he'll fit in. It's time to find a job. The doubt starts to creep in. Is there really a place in this bright world for a man who only knows how to kill? He looks at his hands, seeing only the blood they've spilled. Can he ever truly smile like they do? Suddenly, a voice echoes in his mind. The cheerful, bright voice of Hachi. You can do it, Ju. It's so clear, so real, that he stops in his tracks, searching for her ghost in the crowd. The bustling crowd carries on, oblivious to the emotional storm inside him. Ju stares into the distance, his eyes softening. Was it just an echo of his own longing, or was she really there? He takes a steadying breath and whispers a promise to the air. I'll do my best, Hachi. With his resolve renewed, he steps forward, leaving his doubts behind him. Ju travels through the countryside, passing by simple farms and watermills. He's a stranger in a strange land, moving slowly toward the heart of the kingdom. The journey isn't easy. Even a legendary assassin has to eat, and sometimes that means hunting down a giant worm monster just to survive. As he chews on the tough, charred meat, he remembers that his life is no longer about the hunt, but about the living. 3 days later, he finally reaches the city. It's packed with people, which Ju sees as a good thing. More people mean more chances to stay hidden and, hopefully, more jobs. He joins the queue at the inner gate. ID and baggage, the guard shouts, clearly tired of the long line. Ju steps forward, presenting his papers with a silent prayer that his rough appearance doesn't cause any more trouble. The guard looks him up and down with obvious disgust. You came here with nothing, huh? What's with this filthy load? Ju just stays calm, offering a simple explanation about searching for work. He's used to being looked at like garbage. The guard grunts, eyeing Ju's ragged cloak and the heavy stench of travel. ID checks out, but figures you reek. No one's hiring a man who looks like a street thug. Ju remains silent, accepting the harsh judgment as the necessary cost of his fresh start. Just stay out of trouble, the guard warns, finally waving him through the massive gates. Ju offers a stiff nod, his mind already racing with possibilities. He knows his only real skill is killing, but today he's searching for a different path, one that leads away from the blood and into the light. Ju walks into the sunlight of Insarl, a far cry from the dark, oppressive corridors of the empire. For the first time in his 38 years, he feels a sense of true freedom. He tells himself there's no harm in trying to live a quiet life, working honestly under the open sky. But the transition to normal life isn't without its hurdles. As he navigates the crowded streets, the local women immediately whisper behind his back, repulsed by his unkempt appearance and the stench of travel. Ju sighs, realizing he needs to find an inn and a very long shower before he can even think about looking for work. He weaves through the vibrant city, eventually finding an inn tucked away in a quiet corner. After a brief and awkward exchange with the receptionist, who seems intimidated by his presence, he finally secures a room. For now, he has a roof over his head. The hot water of the shower feels like a divine luxury. As the steam rises, it reveals the map of his life, a back covered in horrific scars from decades of combat. He's paid for 10 days at the inn, a temporary sanctuary that feels more like a miracle than a business transaction. Everything he owns, his fake ID, his old dagger, and a few meager belongings, fits into a single bag. It's a minimalist existence for a man starting over. His quiet moment of reflection is abruptly cut short by another guest shouting for him to quit hogging the shared shower. As he leaves the bathroom, Ju casually tells the next man in line that it's all yours. Despite being clean, his natural, brooding aura is so intense that the other guest can barely manage a terrified thank you before scurrying inside. Some things, it seems, can't be washed away. Collapsing onto the bed in his small room, Ju is struck by how soft it feels. It's a world apart from the hard, cold prison slabs he was forced to call beds back at the assassin hideout. This simple comfort feels like the start of his new world. He lies there, eyes closed, savoring the peace of not having a target to hunt. Then, a memory of Hachi's surfaces. She once dreamed of sleeping on a soft bed someday. Ju realizes with a quiet satisfaction that he's just checked the first item off her bucket list. But the sentimental moment ends with a sudden, thunderous sneeze. Ju rubs his runny nose, realizing that while the bed is soft, the room itself is a drafty mess. He can't survive here for long on his dwindling funds. He needs to find work immediately if he wants to move into a room that won't give him a cold. The next morning, Ju heads back into the heart of the city. He's taken aback by the sheer scale of the crowds. Yesterday was a blur, but now he takes in the vibrant main street, wondering if it's always this packed with life. It's a chaotic energy he isn't used to. He scans the various shops, searching for any opportunity. Despite his desire to leave the underworld behind, his eyes instinctively drift toward the weapon stalls. He finds himself critiquing the quality of the blades, noting that while they aren't bad, the prices are far too steep for an honest man's wages. His stomach growls as he stops in front of a bakery. The aroma of fresh bread is overwhelming, pulling him toward the display window. For a man who has lived on rations and monster meat, this is true temptation. He gazes longingly at the golden loaves, his hunger reminding him that he hasn't had a proper meal since leaving the Empire. But after paying for the inn, his pockets are practically empty. As he stands there paralyzed by his craving, a waitress approaches, her voice trembling as she asks if she can help him. In a moment of pure desperation, Ju blurts out a request to work there. The waitress is so shocked she practically jumps out of her skin, her eyes wide with terror as she stares at the scary-looking man standing in her shop. Ju tries to be persuasive, offering to do any job as a part-timer or a rubido, but his intense, brooding expression makes the request sound more like an ultimatum. The poor girl is visibly shaking, her mind unable to reconcile his terrifying face with a simple job application. The commotion draws the manager out from the back. Seeing a giant, scary man seemingly cornering his staff, he bellows at Ju, demanding to know what he thinks he's doing. The misunderstanding is instant and absolute. Without giving Ju a chance to explain his proposal, the manager literally kicks him out of the shop, shouting that they don't hire gangsters. Ju sails through the air and lands hard on the cobblestones, his first attempt at employment ending in a literal crash. Sitting on the cold ground, Ju lets out a long, weary sigh. It's a discouraging start to his new life. He realizes that his face and his history are going to be much harder to overcome than he originally thought. He brushes himself off, deciding to try elsewhere. The rest of the morning is a montage of rejection. He's turned away from a themed cafe full of witches, a florist, and various other shops. Wherever he goes, shopkeepers cross their arms and say no, and even the local children burst into tears at the mere sight of his villainous face. The frustration finally begins to show. Ju looks at the city full of thriving shops and wonders why not a single one of them has a place for him. His dream of a normal life is starting to feel like an impossible task. He catches his reflection in a window and finally sees what the locals see. A 38-year-old man who has never held an honest job, wearing rags and possessing a face that screams criminal. He realizes that his appearance alone is a disqualifier in this polite world. As he walks through the crowd, just starts to think that perhaps the only paths left for someone like him are soldiering or adventuring. Lost in his thoughts, he accidentally bumps into a young woman with glasses. She apologizes frantically, but before he can respond, a sudden commotion erupts as someone yells to get out of the way. The woman, Stana, assures him she's fine. Ju watched the man who brushed past them, relieved he didn't pickpocket her during the collision. But his relief is short-lived as a frantic scream for help suddenly rings out across the street. A frantic scream rings out as an elderly woman points toward a fleeing figure. Ju realizes with a jolt that the man who just brushed past him is the thief. Despite his best efforts to stay out of trouble, it seems the underworld has a way of dragging him back in. As the thief dives toward a dense labyrinth of winding alleys, Ju's instincts take over. He looks back at Stana, his focus sharpening to a deadly edge. He knows exactly how to catch a target like that, but every second counts if he doesn't want the trail to go cold. Ju knows he has to move fast. He warns Stana that the alleys ahead are a labyrinth, and if they don't act now, the thief will vanish into the shadows. Stana tries to keep up, but she's dealing with a man who lives in a different world of speed. Before the words can even leave Stana's mouth, Ju is gone. He disappears in a literal blur of motion, leaving nothing but a gust of wind and a stunned woman behind him. While Stana tries to explain the situation to the approaching guards, Ju has already claimed the high ground. Perched atop a roof, he confirms his target below. He reflects on his grim past. Skills honed for the art of killing aren't something to be proud of, but today they have a different purpose. He leaps across the city skyline with the predatory grace of a master assassin. Ju tells himself that if these dark skills can finally be used to save someone, then there's no reason to hesitate. He's no longer hunting a mark, he's hunting justice. Deep in a narrow alley, the thief stops to catch his breath, convinced he's safe. He greedily opens the stolen bag, his eyes lighting up as he spots the azure drop, a gem far more valuable than he ever imagined. He thinks his payday is finally here. The thief's triumph is short-lived. A silent shadow looms over him, and before he can even turn around, Ju is right there. The job, as far as the thief is concerned, is about to take a very dark turn. Ju strikes with surgical precision, locking the man in a powerful chokehold. There are no wasted movements, no unnecessary flair, just the cold, efficient technique of a man who has mastered the anatomy of life and death. The thief quickly loses consciousness, slumped over in Ju's arms. Ju notes to himself that he's far more accustomed to the finality of snapped bone or slit throat. Sparing a life requires a level of restraint that feels strangely alien to him. He looks down at his captive, realizing that keeping someone alive is actually much harder than killing them. Yet, as he stares at the unconscious thief, he realizes he doesn't hate this new challenge. It's a different kind of strength. Ju retrieves the bag, relieved to see the contents are safe. For the first time in his life, he feels he has a story he can tell Hachi with genuine pride. He hopes to make many more stories like this, stories where he's the hero, not the monster. Back on the main street, the victim is surrounded by guards and curious onlookers. The air is thick with tension as everyone waits for news of the thief. Ju slowly makes his way back to the crowd, bag in hand. Ju approaches the woman, a rare sense of accomplishment in his eyes. He tries to reassure her, telling her not to worry because everything is still intact. But the woman looks at him with pure, unadulterated horror and screams. That's the man. Ju is frozen in shock. The words ring in his ears. She's accusing him of being the very thief he just caught. In her eyes, his rugged face and the bag in his hand are all the proof she needs. The accusation triggers a dark flashback. Ju remembers his past, where he was hailed as a savior for slaying a tyrannical hero, yet brought him no joy. Killing, no matter how justified the cause, was always just killing. He spent his life in that cycle of violence. He had truly believed he was finally doing something good. He even gave the thief a piece of advice to change his ways. But as he stands there, the hero in his own mind is being branded as a criminal by the very person he saved. The bitter irony is almost too much to bear. The woman's hysterical cries draw every eye in the square. To her and the guards, Ju is a dangerous criminal caught red-handed. The weight of his appearance and the world's prejudice has finally crushed his good deed. The guards draw their weapons, barking orders for him to stay put. Ju stands paralyzed, his heart sinking as the reality of the situation sets in. He tried to step into the light, but the world is determined to keep him in the shadows. He's trapped in a nightmare where the savior is the suspect. Ju stands there, trying his best to look like an innocent citizen, but it's hard with a face like that. The guard looks suspicious, and Ju starts to wonder, if he runs now, will it just make him look more guilty? He tries to explain the truth. He saw the thief and chased him down to get the bag back. We see Ju's former assassin skills in action as he leaps across rooftops, knocking the culprit out cold in a dark alley. But the guard isn't buying this hero act for a second. To him, Ju looks more like the criminal than the victim. Ridiculous, he scoffs, ordering his men to take Ju in. The logic is simple. The distance between the main street and the red light district is way too far for a normal person to cover in such a short time. To these guards, Ju's story is physically impossible. The guard points out that it hasn't even been 10 minutes since the theft. Ju realizes that his superhuman speed, meant for killing, has now become the very thing that makes him look like a liar. Ju sighs internally. No matter what he says, they've already made up their minds. As a crowd gathers to watch the thief get caught, someone in the back starts to wonder what all the fuss is about. Locked in handcuffs, Ju is fuming. He tried to do one good deed and ended up in chains. He considers just forcing his way out. After all, a prison cell can't hold the world's best assassin, but that would ruin his chance at a normal life. The tension in the air is thick as Ju is led away, with the townsfolk whispering and staring at the man they believe is a common criminal. Suddenly, a voice rings out through the crowd. That man didn't steal the bag. Stana, a smart-looking woman with long dark hair and glasses, steps forward to defend him. Ju recognizes her immediately. She was there. Stana doesn't back down, demanding the guards confirm the facts before arresting the wrong man. She claims she was with Ju and that they chased the thief together, providing him with a much-needed alibi. She hits the guards with cold logic. While they waste time arresting an innocent man, the real thief could wake up and vanish. The guards have no choice but to listen and agree to let Ju lead the way. Stana gives a bright, triumphant smile, while Ju can only look on with a mix of confusion and awkwardness. He's not used to people actually helping him out. They head back into the narrow alleys. Ju points toward the shadows, confident that his work is exactly where he left it. There, he says. That's him. And sure enough, there lies the real thief, still knocked out cold. The guard is stunned. Ju was telling the truth the whole time. The evidence is right there on the ground. Case closed. The guards release Ju, acknowledging their mistake while the real culprit is hauled away. Ju rubs his wrists, glad to be free but annoyed by the whole mess. Ju watches Stana leave, feeling a rare sense of gratitude. Thanks to her, he's in the clear. He makes a mental note to thank her properly if they ever cross paths again. But gratitude won't fill his stomach or pay the bills. Ju realizes that to truly fit in and build trust, he needs a proper job and a place of his own. He needs to find his footing in this new world. Easier said than done. Every shop on the main street turns him away because of his scruffy, dangerous appearance. Just as he's about to give up hope, he spots a tool shop tucked away in a corner. He's seen plenty of places like this before, shops that act as covers for the underworld. He's avoided them until now to stay on the straight and narrow, but desperate times call for desperate measures. Ju decides he can't be picky anymore and pushes open the door. Inside, the shop is filled with various items, looking far more professional than he expected. He takes a cautious step forward, his assassin instinct still on high alert. As he looks around, Ju is genuinely impressed. The weapons on display are of incredibly high quality, finely crafted with an expert hand. This isn't just a front, it's the work of a master. He begins to wonder who could possibly run a place like this. Is it a proud, old craftsman with decades of experience, or perhaps a sharp-eyed woman with a keen sense for business? The shop seems quiet, almost empty. Ju calls out, wondering if there's anyone in the back. He's half expecting to be kicked out again, like at all the other shops. Suddenly, a mountain of a man steps out from the back. This is Leslie, a giant with a thick beard and a mohawk who booms out a boisterous welcome. Despite his intimidating size, his expression is warm and full of life. Ju is momentarily stunned by the man's sheer presence. When he asks if the shop owner is in, the big man crosses his arms with a confident grin. "That'd be me," Leslie replies. Seeing an opening, Ju prepares to take a gamble and asks for the one thing he needs most. Ju takes a deep breath and makes his move. "A job. Hire me here." Leslie stops what he's doing, looking at this scruffy stranger with a mix of surprise and confusion. Ju bows his head, apologizing for the suddenness, while Leslie just brushes it off, saying he gets that a lot. The big man lets out a thunderous laugh that echoes through the shop. "Not goods, but a job, huh?" Leslie finds the sheer audacity of the request hilarious, his boisterous personality filling the room. Leslie wipes a tear from his eye, admitting he likes Ju's wit. He'd hire him if he could, but the shop is small, and he doesn't really need any extra hands. Ju stands there, slightly confused by what exactly was so funny, but prepared for the rejection. Ju accepts the answer with a quiet nod, his shoulders slumping slightly. Leslie, ever the optimist, tells him not to be down. "If something comes up, drop by. I'll let you help if I can," he offers, not wanting to leave the man completely hopeless. Just as Ju is about to leave, the back door opens. Stana, the woman from earlier, steps in and is shocked to see Ju standing there. She's genuinely delighted to see that he was safely cleared after the incident with the thief. When Stana hears that Ju is looking for work, her eyes practically sparkle. She thinks it's a fantastic idea and immediately starts championing his cause, her enthusiasm catching both men off guard. Stana vouches for Ju with everything she's got, telling Leslie that this man is kind and trustworthy because he risked himself to catch a thief for a total stranger. Ju can only stand there, awkward and sweating, as she sings his praises. The endorsement from Stana-sensei changes everything. Without a second thought, Leslie gives a thumbs up and a wide grin. "You're hired. See you tomorrow." Ju is completely stunned by the sudden turn of events, his mind still trying to process the job offer. Stana explains the reality of the situation. With Leslie's chronic back problems, running this entire place alone was becoming way too much for him. She's relieved that he'll finally have some help. Leslie tries to act tough, flexing his arms and thanking Stana for always looking out for him, but he's quickly reminded of his limits. He cries out as his back gives a sharp, painful crack, leaving him hunched over in agony. Seeing the big man in pain, Stana asks Ju to please ease his burden. She then realizes she hasn't even asked for his name yet. Ju hesitates for a split second before giving his alias. "I'm Jade." Formal introductions are made. Stana gives a warm smile, pleased to meet Jade-san. Leslie, still sweating from his back pain, manages to introduce himself properly as well. The foundation for their new working relationship is finally laid. As Stana prepares to leave, she tells Ju to do his best. Leslie waves her off, telling her she's always welcome there. The atmosphere in the shop has completely shifted from suspicion to a strange kind of camaraderie. Ju watches her go, a look of genuine sincerity on his face. "Really, thank you," he says quietly. He makes a silent vow to himself that he will repay this favor, no matter what it takes. Stana walks away with a gentle, satisfied smile. She did a good thing today, helping an honest man find his place. But as she disappears into the distance, Ju turns back to his new employer with a lingering doubt. Ju asks Leslie if he's really sure about this, hiring a shady stranger like him. He doesn't want Leslie to feel forced into it just because Stana vouched for him. Leslie just scoffs, amused by Ju's attempt to act cool. Leslie puts a heavy hand on Ju's shoulder, laughing heartily. "If Stana-sensei vouches for you, that's enough for me. I'm a man with no qualms. Don't worry." His trust is simple and absolute. Ju finally lets a small, genuine smile touch his lips. "Thanks. I'll work hard," he promises. Leslie gives a thumbs up, his energy and confidence infectious. It feels like the start of something good. Leslie manages his expectations, warning Ju that business isn't exactly booming, so he shouldn't expect much pay. Ju doesn't care about the money. As long as it's enough to live on, he won't complain. To him, This job is about much more than just a paycheck. With that, work is done for the day. Leslie waves Ju off, telling him to come early tomorrow so he can teach him the ropes. Ju waves back, already looking forward to his first day of honest labor. As he walks through the town, Ju reflects on how unlikely this all is. He never thought he'd land a job this way. At last, he feels like he's stepped out of the darkness and is finally at the starting line of a real life. The sun sets over the kingdom, casting a warm glow over the city. For the first time in his life, Ju is determined to walk the path of an ordinary life, far away from the blood and shadows of his past. But while Ju finds peace, shadows are gathering elsewhere. In a dimly lit bar, a man grovels on the floor, begging for another chance. "I'll get it right next time," he cries out, but the person he's speaking to has already heard enough. In the cold, dim light of a private bar, the leader of a criminal organization sits with a sharp sword resting on his lap. He has no patience for failure or flowery excuses. His voice cuts through the silence like a blade. "Just answer me. What happened to the Azure Drop?" The thief, shaking with terror, tries to justify his failure. He claims he had the prize in his hands, but was somehow caught while trying to escape. As he is led away by city guard in the background, the leader remains motionless, his eyes fixed on the man who just lost him a fortune. But something about the story doesn't quite add up. The leader is unimpressed. He hired the thief for his speed, yet a common soldier supposedly caught him. But the thief, trembling with fear, screams out the truth. "No, I wasn't caught while running. Someone else knocked me down first." This news changes things. The leader's interest is piqued. "Oh, that's interesting information." He spreads his arms, wondering who could possibly have the skill to intercept one of his men so effortlessly. Could it be another assassin? The thief stammers, unable to give any more details. The leader's patience vanishes instantly. He's furious that his subordinate didn't gather more information. As a dark, suffocating aura begins to fill the room, the thief realizes his life is forfeit. With a cold, decisive strike, the leader ends it. "Don't blame others for your failure," he mutters as blood splatters the floor. In this world, there is no room for those who can't get the job done. He looks down at the useless remains, feeling only annoyance. The people of this city are hopeless. He knows he'll have to report this failure to the higher-ups, and more importantly, they need to silence the thief who was captured by the guards before he talks. The leader is drowning in work, and having to clean up after incompetent underlings is a massive pain. He orders his men to scrub the room clean, his voice dripping with irritation as he turns to leave. This was supposed to be a simple, easy job, but someone got in the way. As he walks out, the leader makes a silent promise to himself. "Whoever got in the way, I'll kill them." He won't let this slight go unpunished. The snake tattoo on his neck seems to pulse with his growing malice. "I'll torture you to death," he vows, his eyes cold and murderous. Ju has no idea that his first good deed has just placed a giant target on his back. The path to an ordinary life just got a lot more dangerous. Another day begins. Welcome back to the life of the world's most overqualified shop assistant. Today is the big day, the start of Ju's second life as a regular worker. In the early morning chill, Leslie is getting ready, his back already giving him trouble. He's reflecting on yesterday when, in front of Stana, he tried to act cool and ended up hiring that mysterious guy, Jade. He just hopes he didn't hire a total weirdo. Speak of the devil. Ju just appears out of thin air, giving Leslie the fright of his life. "Morning, Leslie. I'll be counting on you," he says, as calm as a summer breeze. Leslie is baffled. "Jade, don't sneak up on me," he yells. It's not even dawn yet, but Ju is already standing there, ready for work. Most people struggle to get out of bed, but this former assassin clearly has a different internal clock. Leslie welcomes him in, but inside he's sweating. Is it a good thing he's early, or is this just the first sign of trouble? He's already starting to worry about his new hire's intensity. Once more, "Welcome to my shop, Black Cat," Leslie announces with a theatrical flair. He's clearly proud of his little kingdom, even if it's just a tool shop. She takes a look around. "Black Cat, huh? Cute name." Leslie gets a bit defensive. It's a perfectly fine name for a tool shop. Thank you very much. No need for the sarcasm, kid. Time for the formalities. Leslie realizes they barely even know each other's names beyond the basics. He prompts Ju to introduce himself, but Ju just stands there, mouth agape, struggling to find the words. It's like he's forgotten how to talk to people. And my name is Jade Clone, Ju stammers out. He explains he recently moved here from the Empire. Leslie nods along, relieved to finally get some backstory. Then comes the bombshell. Ju casually mentions he's never worked a single day in his life. Leslie's face is a picture of pure disbelief. Then how the hell have you survived till now? He screams. Living off his parents? Ju just shrugs it off. Leslie slumps into his chair, head in his hands. He's convinced he's just hired a complete lunatic. Ju looks down at him, genuinely confused about why the old man is so distressed. Leslie tries to rationalize it. Stan's judgment is usually sharp, but he's already preparing to fire Ju if he turns out to be useless. He's not going to let a clueless old man ruin his business just to impress a teacher. Now, it's his turn to share. I'm Leslie, he says, regaining his confidence. He's been running this place for 10 years, but before that, he was a decent adventurer. Ju looks at him, noting the lack of major scars. He must have been pretty good to survive that long unscathed. Leslie starts flexing, bragging about his physique. Ju quickly shuts him down with a deadpan warning. Careful with those poses, you'll throw your back out again. Talk about a mood killer. Enough talk, time to work. Leslie explains the daily grind. Stocking shelves, keeping the books, inventory checks, and the most important part, deliveries. He lays out a map of the city, showing Ju the ropes. Ju takes it all in. Stocking, counting, walking, it's all so mundane. But for someone whose previous job was murdering people, this kind of grunt work is a whole new world. Leslie emphasizes that without these basics, you can't run a proper shop. Leslie is surprisingly open to new ideas, offering to pay Ju well for any good product suggestions. Ju, surprisingly humble, says he wants to master the basics first. Leslie is impressed. That's the kind of attitude he likes to see. Noted. But first, I want to get the basics down, Ju says. Leslie give him a hearty, good attitude as Ju looks over the shelf of jars. He's taking this very seriously. Ju decides to tackle deliveries first. He points to a pile of boxes, ready to get moving. Leslie is a bit surprised by his eagerness, shouting, "Wait, Jade," as Ju starts squatting down to lift them. But Leslie has one more thing to fix. He can't let Ju go out looking like that. You're going like that, with that messy hair? Geez. Leslie reaches out, much to Ju's surprise, and starts fussing over him. With a quick tie of a ribbon, Ju's look is transformed. Here, that's a little better. Ju looks startled, his eyes wide. It's probably the first time anyone has done something so kind and normal for him. Ju points out the hypocrisy, noting Leslie's own scruffy beard. Leslie, of course, insists his is stylish and totally different. The banter is already building a nice bond between the two. I'll get going then. Ju hoists a crate and heads for the door. Leslie gives him a final warning. Take it slow, just don't mess up the addresses. Don't get lost. Ju's confident, "Leave it to me," rings out as he walks into the sunlight. Watching Ju walk off, Leslie finally feels at ease. He seems straightforward, willing, and ready to learn. But just as he starts to relax, his eyes land on the counter. Wait, Jade, your bag. The poor guy forgot the most important tool for a newcomer, the city map. Leslie bolts out the door, frantically waving the bag and shouting. But Ju is nowhere to be seen. He's already vanished into the city, leaving a panicked Leslie thinking his employee is hopelessly lost. Little does he know, Ju is about to show exactly why a map is the last thing an assassin needs. While Leslie is back at the shop panicking because he thinks his new employee is lost without a map, Ju is actually taking the scenic route by jumping across rooftops. Talk about express delivery. Who needs a map when you have the parkour skills of a legendary assassin? He doesn't need a map. Ju's internal radar is already locked on. He focuses on his first target, a house on the main street. His eyes are sharp, calculating the most efficient path through the urban maze. Ju finds the mansion with ease. He notes that a previous pickpocket incident actually helped him memorize the directions. He lands gracefully and prepares to ring the bell, the crate still perfectly balanced in his arms. A butler opens the door, looking a bit surprised by the sudden visitor. Ju introduces himself with a blank expression. "I'm Jade, just started at Black Cat. The shopkeeper asked me to deliver this package. He wants to get this over with quickly." To Ju's surprise, the butler beams with a friendly smile. "Ah, from Leslie's store. Yes, please come in." It's a level of hospitality Ju isn't quite used to. Ju hesitates at the threshold. In his old life, being invited into a stranger's house usually meant an ambush. Really allowed in? He wonders, his sweat drop betraying his inner tension while the butler cheerfully beckons him forward. The hospitality doesn't stop there. The butler even offers tea. Ju tries to remain professional and declines, but the butler is crestfallen. Apparently, Leslie always stays for tea. Ju realizes that being normal involves a lot more social interaction than he anticipated. The butler's disappointment makes Ju feel a strange twinge of guilt. He watches as the man prepares to set things up, mentioning that his master even ordered sweets. It's a completely different world from the shadows Ju used to inhabit. The butler continues to be incredibly polite, apologizing for his persistence, but reiterating how much they enjoy tea with Leslie. Ju stands there, awkward and out of his element, staring at the steaming cup of tea. Finally, Ju manages a polite "all right" and promises to stop by next time after finishing his route. The butler waves him off warmly. Ju is starting to realize that deliveries are about more than just moving boxes from point A to point B. Next stop, Ju thinks to himself. He's starting to get into the rhythm of it. He hands over another box to a grateful citizen, his face remaining stoic but his movements becoming more fluid as he adapts to this new mission. Ju delivers another package to a child in the street. He reflects on how deliveries aren't just about dropping things off. They connect people in ways he never considered. Next stop, the final house. Last one. Ju looks at the clock tower. 3 houses in about 30 minutes. He considers it a job well done for his first day. He knocks on the door of the final residence. The door swings open, and a little boy bursts out. Ju is startled for a second by the kid's sheer energy. The boy looks up at him with wide, curious eyes. "Delivery from Black Cat," Ju says. The boy's face lights up with pure joy. "Hero's sword," he screams in excitement. Ju can only blink in surprise at the kid's enthusiasm for what is likely just a toy. A kind-looking grandmother comes to the door, scolding little Ray-chan for troubling the delivery man. Ju hands over the package with a slight bow. The boy is already celebrating, thanking Ju with a huge, toothy grin. The package contains a wooden toy sword that Leslie fixed. Ray-chan is absolutely enchanted by it, his eyes sparkling like stars. The grandmother is incredibly grateful, praising Leslie's wonderful craftsmanship. The grandmother sighs, mentioning how it's a shame the hero was killed. Ju's expression shifts, a flash of internal turmoil. She believes the legend lives on through play and hopes that one day, a new hero will be born. Ju's eyes are hidden in shadow as he listens to her praise the man he personally executed. Ray-chan runs around playing with his sword, oblivious to the heavy atmosphere. The grandmother notices Ju's sudden silence and asks if something is wrong. Ju struggles to find an answer, his past and present colliding in this quiet living room. As Ju looks at the innocent joy of the child, a collage of dark memories flashes through his mind. The reality of the hero that the world never saw. The grandmother's wish for a hero who makes a world where no one suffers hits him like a physical blow. Ju can only look on with a somber, knowing gaze. "Yes, that would be nice," Ju finally says, offering a small, sad smile. He says his goodbyes and leaves, watching Ray-chan continue his hero play from the doorway. It's a peaceful scene, but for Ju, it's laced with a bitter irony. Walking through the bustling streets, Ju hears the rumors of the hero's death everywhere. He knows Kuro's cover story is holding for now, but he's under no illusions. He knows the truth is a ticking time bomb, but for now, he'll just deal with it when the time comes. Ju returns to the shop, and Leslie is absolutely floored. "What? You finished all the deliveries already?" He can't believe it. Even the closest round trip takes 20 minutes. He immediately suspects Ju of just dumping the packages in a ditch somewhere. Of course not. Ju replies with his usual deadpan stare, completely unfazed by the accusation. But Leslie isn't buying it for a second. He's already planning to verify those deliveries himself. The air in the shop is thick with a new, uncomfortable tension as the old shopkeeper narrows his eyes. For the moment, Leslie backs off and assigns Ju other chores to keep him busy until closing. Ju gets to work silently, but he can't help but sigh internally. He's starting to realize that in this mundane life, being superhumanly efficient is just as suspicious as being incompetent. He can feel Leslie's lingering doubt burning into him, waiting for the shop to close. Back at the shop, the atmosphere is heavy. Leslie is staring daggers at his new employee, his eyes narrowed in deep suspicion. Ju just keeps working, but he can feel the old man's gaze burning into the back of his head. The secret might be out. Shop's closed. Let's go confirm, Jade. Leslie's voice is stern. He leads Ju out into the evening streets, determined to find out if his employee is a miracle worker or a pathological liar. Ju follows silently, his mind already calculating the risks. Leslie begins his investigation, visiting every stop on Ju's route. He talks to the butler, who confirms Ju was there. He sees little Raychan still happily swinging that toy sword. To Leslie's shock, every single customer confirms that the deliveries were made, and made perfectly. Leslie lets out a long, weary sigh. So it's true. You really did do all the deliveries. The evidence is undeniable, but it only raises more questions for the veteran shopkeeper. Even so, your speed's not normal, Jade. Leslie points out as they walk. Ju, in his usual deadpan way, just retorts that Leslie is simply slow. Leslie can't help but agree. That route would have taken him an entire day, not 30 minutes. Suddenly, Leslie stops dead in his tracks. He turns to Ju, his expression more serious than ever. You're hiding something, aren't you? The playful banter is gone, replaced by the sharp intuition of an old adventurer. The tension is electric. Leslie reminds Ju that he might be retired, but he was an adventurer who knows how to read people. Ju's internal monologue is racing, so he noticed, what now? Kill him? No, I can't. He's caught between his assassin instincts and his desire for a normal life. Ju thinks about the weight of his secret. He's the one who killed the hero. If Leslie knows the truth, his new life in this city is over. He can't afford to be exposed, but his heart is no longer in the business of killing. Ju looks around the deserted street. No one around. Knock Leslie out and leave. He's ready to vanish into the shadows once again, a ghost of his former self. He's already bracing for the worst-case scenario. Ju sighs, feeling a genuine sense of loss. Thought I could build trust, he thinks. Leslie, on the other hand, looks equally conflicted, his head bowed. If I know, I can't just stay quiet, the old man says. The moment of truth has arrived. The two men stand face to face, a world of secrets between them. Ju is sweating, his hand twitching toward a hidden weapon. Leslie looks like he's about to deliver a life-changing revelation. Jade, you... Then, the ultimate plot twist happens. Leslie bursts into tears. You were forced to work like a dog for your family, weren't you? He lunges forward, clutching Ju in a sobbing, sympathetic embrace. He thinks Ju's superhuman efficiency is just the result of a tragic, overworked childhood. Ju is absolutely stunned, his eyes wide with disbelief. Leslie is nuzzling his shoulder, crying his eyes out over a past that Ju never even had. It's the most ridiculous and most lucky misunderstanding in history. Ju quickly dodges, his heart hammering in his chest. Close call, he thinks. He was millimeters away from pulling a knife on a guy who was just trying to give him a pity hug. The transition from lethal tension to pure comedy is jarringly hilarious. Leslie begins projecting his own past onto Ju. He recalls his own days of being worked like a mule, never getting to enjoy his youth. He wipes away his tears, convinced that he and Ju are kindred spirits who have both suffered through extreme labor. Talk about an overactive imagination. Ju can only watch in silence, a huge sweat drop on his temple. Guess Leslie's story isn't what I feared. Good thing, too. He's safe, but he's also now the object of Leslie's intense pity. Leslie flexes, his spirits restored, now determined to be the big brother figure June never had. Now I'm starving. My treat. Let's eat. Leslie says, his loud stomach growl breaking the tension. Ju, still a bit dazed, manages a "you sure?" but his mouth is already watering. It seems a good meal is the perfect way to end a day that almost ended in disaster. Of course, Leslie roars. And so, the world's most overqualified delivery boy survives another day. In the bustling streets, Ju, known by his alias Jade Clone, moves through the crowd. But as he walks, a man in a sharp trench coat passes by, exuding an aura that stops Ju in his tracks. Ju senses it immediately, the unmistakable, heavy stench of blood. Even in a peaceful city like this, there are people who live on the edge of death. But for now, Ju chooses to keep walking, shaking off the dark familiarity. The man, Avin, continues on his way without a backward glance. Two worlds momentarily crossed, but Ju has a new life to lead, far away from the shadows of his past. A week has passed since Ju started his new life at Black Cat, Leslie's tool shop. It's a quiet existence, one he never thought possible for a former assassin. He's been working harder than anyone, handling heavy deliveries with an efficiency that borders on supernatural. To Ju, it's just a job, but to everyone else, he's a machine. Suddenly, Leslie drops a bombshell. You don't need to come in tomorrow. Ju freezes, his heart sinking. To a man who has only known duty or death, those words sound like a death sentence. Seeing Ju's terrified expression, Leslie quickly clarifies. He's not firing him. He wants Ju to actually take a break and enjoy himself. But the concept of relaxing is completely foreign to Ju. Old traumas resurface. Ju remembers the cold voices of his past, calling him a worthless brat and kicking him out. In his world, being told to leave always meant you were no longer useful. But Leslie is different. He leans in, explaining that Ju's hard work has allowed the shop to offer services they never could before. He's not being cast aside. He's being rewarded. Leslie puts a heavy hand on Ju's shoulder, reassuring him. You're an important part of this shop now, he says with a grin. I'd never fire someone like you. Ju looks at his boss, stunned by the genuine kindness. For the first time in his 38 years, someone is telling him his worth isn't tied solely to his utility as a tool. A vacation. Ju mumbles to himself. He tries to process the idea, his mind racing to figure out what a normal person even does when they aren't working. It's the hardest mission he's ever faced. The next morning, Leslie sends him off with a heavy pouch of coins, his first week's pay. Ju stands at the entrance of the city, feeling the weight of honest labor in his hand. Leslie's voice echoes in his head. Spend it however you like. Just remember, from now on, you'll be paid monthly. Ju steps out into the morning sun, his pockets full and his schedule empty. He counts his earnings, 5 silver and 3 copper. A bitter smile touches his lips as he realizes this humble amount is more than he ever earned for killing the hero. Living a normal life is surprisingly lucrative. His plan is simple. New clothes first, then a proper sword for self-defense. But his peaceful thoughts are shattered by a sudden scream. Thief! Someone yells, and Ju's instincts instantly sharpen. A masked man bolts through the street, a stolen bag clutched in his hand. The crowd panics, but Ju remains calm, his eyes tracking the thief's every movement with predatory precision. He hesitates for a second, remembering the last time he tried to help and ended up being treated like the criminal instead. But then, he sees an opportunity to help Stana and the shop. He decides to intervene, but not as the mysterious Ju. Using the alias Jade from Black Cat, he leaps into action, hoping to spread a little good publicity for Leslie's store while he's at it. In a flash, Ju is on the rooftops, moving with a speed that no ordinary citizen could match. He keeps the target in sight, calculating the best path to cut the thief off. But then, something catches his eye. He stops, his gaze narrowing as he looks down into the alleyway. Something about this situation doesn't feel like a simple robbery. From his vantage point, Ju watches the thief run. It doesn't look like an ambush, but the way the man is moving suggests he's heading toward a specific destination rather than just escaping. Ju watches as the thief pauses, looking around as if searching for someone. It's a strange move for a man who should be running for his life. The assassin in Ju senses a trap. The sight confirms Ju's suspicions. More men are lying in wait within the narrow alleyways. A petty pickpocket wouldn't need a whole team. This isn't just a theft, it's a coordinated trap, and Ju has just spotted the snare. It's all way too suspicious. Down below, the thieves begin to fidget, visibly confused that no one is actually chasing their bait. Ju smiles grimly from the safety of the rooftops. They were waiting for a confrontation, but they're about to find out what happens when the shadow strikes back. Back in the alley, the thieves are in a panic. Their decoy plan was a total bust, and now they're left arguing amongst themselves. What do we do now, boss? One of them asks as the leader realizes their target didn't take the bait. The leader isn't ready to give up just yet. We're not going home empty-handed, he growls, ordering his men to change spots and try again. But little do they know, Ju is already moving through the shadows, swiftly taking out another one of their crew with professional silence. The boss's orders are clear. Drag out the bastard who ruined our job in the red light district. Ju, hiding just a few feet away, hears everything. The realization hits him like a ton of bricks. They aren't just petty thieves. They're an organized gang, and he's their target. Ju watches from his hiding spot, his mind racing. If they're this organized, someone must be giving the orders. Suddenly, a shout rings out. Chiwai. That's him. The gang has spotted something, and Ju knows he needs to stay out of sight to keep his identity safe. Ju retreats, carrying the unconscious thief he captured. Below him, the gang is frustrated, realizing their prey has managed to trick them once again. They're searching everywhere, but Ju is always one step ahead. Things are getting complicated. Ju knows the gang is persistent, but he takes small comfort in the fact that they haven't seen his face yet. For now, his best move is to watch from a distance and gather more information. Later, Ju walks through a quieter part of the city. He's approached by a guard who calls out, "Excuse me a sec." The guard looks suspicious at first, but his tone changes as he gets closer. "Caught another thief?" the guard asks with a surprised grin. He recognizes Ju from the incident in the red light district. Ju just gives a casual, "Yeah," as if catching criminals on his day off is a regular hobby. Ju hands over the captured man, telling the guard to take him in. The guard is absolutely stunned. This is the second time Ju has basically done his job for him. "Wah," he stammers, looking at the unconscious thief. The guard is so impressed that he offers Ju a job on the spot. "Have you ever thought about helping with city security?" he asks. Ju doesn't even hesitate. "I'll pass," he says, making it clear he's not looking for a career change. Ju walks away, his resolve as firm as ever. "I work at a tool shop called Black Cat," he reminds himself. "I just want to stay an ordinary old man." It's a simple dream, even if his past keeps trying to drag him back into the chaos. The guard salutes him, still hoping Ju might change his mind. "If the shop ever goes under, come see us," he shouts. Ju just waves him off with a dry response. Don't jinx it. He's quite happy with his current employer. Continuing his day off, Ju finds himself window shopping at a high-end weapons store. He looks at the ornate bows and arrows, but his practical side kicks in. Pricey, he thinks. Good quality, but way overpriced. He's realizing that everything on the main street comes with a heavy markup. He examines a bracelet, but his thoughts immediately go back to his own shop. Black Cat has similar goods, he notes, and they're better quality and cheaper, too. It seems Leslie has taught him well about the value of good tools. Ju takes a moment to appreciate the walk, thinking that even window shopping is a valuable way to see the differences in the market. He considers checking out the Western stalls, but decides he's seen enough and starts to head back. That's when he hears a familiar voice. "HM, Jade-san, isn't it?" Stana appears, her face lit up with a bright smile. Ju is genuinely surprised to run into her in such a big city. "Stana," he exclaims, stopping in his tracks. They start chatting like old friends. Stana is curious about his new life. "So, how's work going?" she asks. It's a normal, pleasant conversation, the kind Ju used to only dream about. Ju tells her how Leslie trusts him with deliveries and how he's been learning the layout of the city. Stana is genuinely happy for him. When she asks if he's out on a delivery now, Ju explains it's finally his day off and he's just doing a bit of shopping. They talk about the high prices on the main street. Stana agrees that it's pricey and mentions she usually just browses here too. "Best bargains are east, actually," she shares, giving him a local's tip. Stana doesn't let him go that easily. "Let's go shopping together," she says, pointing the way with excitement. Ju is a bit overwhelmed by her energy, but he finds himself following her nonetheless. Then let's go," she laughs. The shopping spree begins. Ju tries on a new jacket and some sturdy boots while Stana and the shopkeeper offer their approval. It's a surreal experience for a man who's spent his life in the shadows, but he actually seems to be enjoying himself. As they continue their walk, Stana brings up a curious point. "You work at a tool shop. Why buy a weapon?" Ju pauses, his gaze drifting to the alleyways. He can't tell her about the shady guys he spotted earlier, so he just gives a vague answer about self-defense. "Big city, lots of trouble," Ju explains. "Better safe than sorry." Stana seems to accept this, agreeing that self-defense is important. She points toward an alley, saying the best weapon shop is just down that way. Disaster strikes in an instant. Stana, caught up in her excitement, accidentally bumps into a man rounding the corner. I wasn't looking," she gasps, but the figure looming over her is Avin. His expression is cold and deadly, and Ju's blood turns to ice as he recognizes the aura of a fellow killer. Ju's survival instincts scream, a warning he can't ignore. He knows exactly how dangerous Avin is, and seeing Stana so close to him sends him into a state of high alert. "Stana!" he shouts, his eyes wide with alarm as he prepares to lunge forward, ready to intervene at any cost. In a flash of movement, Ju rushes forward. His instincts, forged through years of assassination, scream that Stana is in mortal danger. He grabs her, pulling her back just as Avin begins to react to the collision. The air between them crackles with a sudden, suffocating pressure. Stana ends up on the ground, startled by Ju's sudden intervention. "JJ-san," she gasps, her heart hammering. Ju stands between her and the stranger, his body tensed and ready for a fight. But Avin simply stands there, his hand resting casually near his blade, his eyes unreadable. "If you could please let go." Stana stammers, realizing Ju is still gripping her tightly in his protective panic. The tension breaks as Avin bows slightly, his lethal aura retreating behind a mask of polite civility. "It's my fault for bumping into you," he says smoothly. Stana, ever the optimist, immediately tries to take the blame herself, completely unaware of the deadly exchange that almost just occurred. Ju watches Avin like a hawk, sweat beading on his forehead as he realizes just how close they came to a disaster. Ju's mind is reeling. Damn it, I actually flinched at that killing intent. He thinks, his pride as a former top-tier assassin wounded by his own instinctive fear. He knows exactly what Avin is, a predator of the highest order. Seeing Stana smile at such a monster makes his skin crawl. Avin continues the charade, explaining that he's looking for a skilled weaponsmith to service a keepsake sword from friend. He claims he's simply lost in the city. Stana's face lights up at the mention of a smith, but Ju remains silent, his gaze fixed on Avin. He remembers passing this man earlier, the one who reeked of blood. The coincidence is too perfect to be anything but dangerous. Before Ju can find a way to usher Stana away, she makes a move that sends a chill down his spine. "Then why don't we go together?" she chirps, pointing the way. "We're headed there too." Ju's jaw drops in disbelief. In her kindness, Stana has just invited a wolf to walk right alongside them. The man offers a thin, calculated smile as he introduces himself. "I'm late to the introductions. I'm Avin. A pleasure to meet you." Ju stares at him, his expression grim. He knows the pleasure is all Avin's, as they've now been drawn into the orbit of a man who lives and breathes death. The vacation is officially over, and a new, much deadlier game has begun.